Hey there guys, before we get into the video, don't forget to give me a like and a subscribe if you are a Madoka Magica fan, because this is a channel that's all about Madoka Magica related content. So moving on into today's discussion, I did a video not too long ago on, I believe the video was related to Sayaka and Homura's parents, which if you haven't seen it, I'll link it below. That video seemed to do pretty well. You guys seem to like it. So I was looking through the Madoka Magica Reddit website again, and I found another interesting discussion, which is called, as you can see on your screen, Why Homura Can't Beat Walpurgis-Nacht. So we're just going to go through what was written on this particular subject, and then I'll give my thoughts, and then I can hear what you guys think as well. So let's just get right into it. So I was rewatching the fight scene between Homura. Let me highlight this. So I was rewatching the fight scene between Homura and Walpurgis-Nacht, and I remember two things. First off, while unable to kill it on her own, success was more sure when she had someone else to fight. But I feel it had less to do with more firepower and more to do with the other thing I remembered. In one of the interviews, they mentioned how Charlotte was designed as a foil to Mommy's magic. Her main magic being ribbons as a reference to her wish to tie herself to life. And Charlotte being a snake that can shed its skin whenever it's bound. Interesting. Very interesting. What this basically says was that when it comes to fighting Charlotte, Charlotte basically can't be beaten by Mommy, which makes a lot of sense, especially considering, because I actually read a manga not too long ago called Homura's Revenge. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. It basically paints this picture of an alternative timeline of what would have happened if Homura had stopped Madoka at the end of the original Madoka Magica series and went back in time with Madoka with her. Like, she basically turns back the time, she turns back the clock, goes back in time, but she takes Madoka with her. And one of the things that happens within that manga is Mommy fights Charlotte, and it looks like she's actually going to win, especially since she kind of is saved by Madoka before she dies, but for some reason she's not able to vanquish her, and it really pissed me off because Mommy was really like fighting, like she was trying so much harder to defeat Charlotte in this alternative universe, but it still didn't work. It really pissed me off. You could kind of say that Charlotte is Mommy's ultimate weakness, essentially. That's basically what this means. So that's very insightful. Anyway, moving on, I kind of got off topic there. My theory is that as someone whose wish is to try again and again, she simply is incapable of winning against a witch that represents inevitability. That's also why Madoka, whose wish is a refutation of inevitability, is able to win and even one-shot her. Let's see what some of the people down here have to say about this. Let's see here. This person says, a witch that represents inevitability. She represents hopelessness, constantly spinning in circles, never getting anywhere. So she was more Homura's dark reflection than her opposite. And Madoka becomes Walpurgis-Nacht's opposite, which is hope. Just to be clear, Madoka didn't one-shot Walpurgis-Nacht. She actively prevented her from coming into existence in the first place. She one-shot her in one of the previous timelines, and good point about the hopelessness. But on the other hand, I guess mine kind of fits if one thinks of hopelessness as inevitable failure. My thoughts, though, were more on the fact that no matter what, she will appear and cause disaster. Another way of putting it is that Walpurgis-Nacht represents fate, while Homura's wish was basically worded in a way that would allow her to struggle against, but not overcome, Madoka's fate. Here is an expert from Walpurgis-Nacht's wiki page. She will continue to rotate aimlessly throughout the world until she completely changes the whole of this age into a drama. It's also worth noting that her type is listed as Stage Constructing Witch, implying that Homura's actions were all part of the script. This is also probably why the show opens and closes with a curtain like on a stage. Very interesting. Very interesting. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of all this. Anyway, moving on. My guess was that Walpurgis was only vulnerable to magical-based attacks like in RPG. No matter the timeline or how strong Madoka is, she's always the only one capable of defeating it. Besides Homura's bow at the end of the series, Madoka was the only magical girl to use this sort of magic light arrows. Both Sayaka and Kyoko use close combat weapons. Homura uses conventional weapons. She once uses a purple bolt on Kyubey, but never uses it again, but I don't know why. Maybe Mommy's magical muskets could have been effective, but she still gets killed by Walpurgis in the first timeline. In the end, maybe Homura should have looked for magical girls using similar powers to Madoka if there ever existed one before. But I guess that even if Homura knew that physical attacks and conventional weapons were ineffective, she would still retry the hard way with what she can get before the fight. Yeah, I think probably one of Homura's biggest downfalls was the fact that she really didn't go out of her way to seek help from others. I mean, a decent argument can be made that in one of the earlier timelines, she did try to warn the girls about, what was going on with Kyubey, and because of the fact that they didn't listen to her, she decided to, I guess, give up on them. But at the same time, I feel like Homura really should have tried maybe to become friends with the other girls, because perhaps if she had been able to connect with them and maybe bond with them, a situation could have occurred where they would have been more likely to listen to her warnings, and maybe they would have been more likely to help her. I mean, that's just a thought. I could be wrong, but that's just a thought. I think the story loses some of its impact if it was truly impossible for Homura to ever beat Walpurgis. I prefer to think that it's simply really, really powerful, exhausting even Madoka's reserves to beat it, and maybe in the first timeline, she exploded her soul gem like Kyoko to kill it. Someone trying something literally impossible hundreds of times is boring. Someone trying something possible but really, really hard 100 times and still failing is interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think it's possible that Homura could have defeated Walpurgis? Can you envision some type of scenario and way that it could have actually happened? Anyway, oh yeah, there's one more question here. That'll pretty much be the end of that. I'm guessing that as Madoka's power increases with each timeline, so does Walpurgis, but to a lesser extent. Homura reset the timeline around Madoka, but she does so because Madoka is killed by Walpurgis. So while most of the timeline's karmic destiny is wrapped up in Madoka, some of it might end up in Walpurgis, which is why in the original timeline, Vanilla, Madoka, and Mommy fighting together are enough to beat it, though at a great cost. Yet in subsequent Timeless, even 3 of the girls working together isn't enough. This is very interesting because some people seem to think that Madoka actually defeated Walpurgis in the first timeline. And truth be told, I'm not really sure if that's the case, because we don't really see Madoka actually defeat Walpurgis. We just know that Mommy, unfortunately, that happens to her. And Madoka goes off to fight Walpurgis, and then we basically see her dead body at the end. But do we really know whether or not Madoka was actually able to defeat Walpurgis? I was always under the impression that she just lost and died, but we don't actually know if Madoka actually won. I guess we have to maybe guess or assume that maybe she did. I mean, it's something to think about. What do you guys think? Do you think Madoka might have defeated Walpurgis in the first timeline? Or do you think that it was more likely that she lost and died as a result? And what do you think of the theories in this topic overall about Walpurgis and Homura? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is Mommy Sexual signing out. Peace!